Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm Matt, along with Anthony. We're from the Pitti Group Wealth Management, and this is the Finance Things in Life. Today we're going to be talking about life events that can change your financial picture and what you can do to prepare.
Yeah, there are so many things that happen in life, some expected, some unexpected, that can really change your outcome. We've talked about in previous episodes setting goals for yourself for financial planning and retirement planning. And then life happens. You can get married, you can get divorced, you can have kids, a death in the family. There's so many different things that can change your outcome in life, that can spur a new direction for you. And not a lot of people know what to do next or what to do in certain scenarios. So we're going to chat a little bit about that, touch base on a lot of those different topics, and hopefully bring some clarity.
Yeah, sounds good. I think probably one of the first things that we do is when you're meeting with an advisor, you really need to give them all the updates that you can. You want them to know what's going on in your life, and that way they can give you suggestions or making sure that you're not missing anything. It's easy to kind of forget about maybe having a grandchild, or maybe one of your kids gets married, and not giving those updates to your advisor might be something that you don't normally think of.
For sure.
But it is something that could be an important
idea
to share.
Yeah, say one of your kids is getting married and you want to gift them some money. I was just talking to a client of mine the other day, and she wants to give her son a gift for a new wedding gift, I should say.
A new wedding gift?
A new wedding gift, a wedding gift
Right.
for a new marriage. But she wants to give a lump sum of money to help put a down payment down on a house. I was probably thinking new house.
Yeah.
But that's something that we can implement into the financial plan. That's something that comes up in life where you may not think, well, how does this affect me down the road? That's one of the things that can come up that if you don't have a plan can throw you off course if you're not prepared or you're not talking to your advisor. Having trust in your advisor and just sharing those details with them, maybe they'll bring something up that you may not have thought of.
Yeah. So marriage is a good one, that often comes up. And with marriage, some of the key things that you should make sure that you're doing is beneficiary updates, right? If you were single before that, you probably had maybe your siblings or maybe parents as your beneficiary. And now that you're married, you probably want to have your spouse as your beneficiary.
Hopefully.
So, hopefully, maybe not. You never know. But that would be kind of one of the main things to kind of think about, not only with IRAs, but your retirement plans, things like that. Making sure that they know what accounts you have and where things are located. Now that you guys are going to be, sharing this life together, I would assume there's going to be some sort of sharing of finances. Maybe not totally commingling everything, but it's going to be some sort of general idea of what each person has and kind of working together. So
yeah. And then on the flip side of that, if you're getting a divorce, one of the things.
Why are you looking at me like that?
I think you're just feeling it. I wasn't looking at you like anyway.
Yes, divorce is another big one that you should prepare for as well.
Yeah. Again, you'll want to change those beneficiaries. I doubt many people that are getting divorced, if something were to happen to them, they want to leave their IRA or their retirement plan to their ex-spouse. You probably want to change it to your kids if you have any, or a close relative. If you're thinking about getting remarried, one of the things you want to make sure is if your kids are the beneficiary of your retirement plan, your new spouse, when you guys get married, will become the primary beneficiary of that account. And the only way around that is to have your new spouse essentially sign a document that states that she's waiving, or he or she are waiving their rights to that retirement plan. So that is one thing you definitely want to keep in mind when getting remarried. Definitely recommend having that conversation before you get married. Having that conversation before you go down that road, because that can lead to other discussions.
Yeah, that'd be a little awkward, right?
It would be a little awkward, but walking down the aisle, be like, by the way,
I need you to sign this
you
document.
need to sign this document. It's not a marriage license, but it's close.
Right. We're signing. You got to sign this document before we sign the marriage license. But, yeah, I mean, and divorces. We fortunately have never had a client go through this, but we have had family. We've had clients that had family members where there was a divorce, someone passed away, and that person did not update the beneficiary information to a sibling, so the ex-wife ended up getting the entire retirement plan. So it's just things like that you really need to, think about and make sure that you're staying on top of. Even after a divorce or even a marriage, for that matter, is updating your will. Making sure that you have everything in place to kind of lay out the things that need to happen after you pass away. So.
Yeah, another part of having a will is, when you start to have kids, updating your will on what your intentions are for your kids. God forbid if anything were to happen to you, updating your power of attorney or a custodian for any minor accounts. If your kids have a UTMA account or a 529, making sure that someone's in charge of managing those assets or managing that account to make sure it's going to what you'd like, and updating your will so I would like these assets to go to this particular thing. Maybe I don't want them to touch these assets until later in life. Just your overall plan to make sure things are carried out to your wishes if something were to happen.
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, especially if your children are minors, making sure that you have a custodian that is going to be around for a while, that is close with the children, because they're going to be making some big decisions for your kids as they get older. So having that trust factor is pretty significant.
Yeah. And then on the next step, the grandkids. Do you want to plan for college funding? Do you want to give something, a gift to your grandkids and help them later on in life? There's a lot of different avenues that you can take with your money that's left over, as far as doing some, future retirement planning for them, college savings, or just I don't want to say trust fund, but a trust fund or some kind of assets that you're leaving behind for grandkids as well. It's another discussion to have.
Yeah. Well, I mean, not only that, but sometimes it's about gifting early. You want to start gifting, whether it's to grandkids or kids. As you're nearing, that second half of your life, or maybe it's maybe you want to spend down some accounts in case you're worried about going into a nursing home and avoiding that 5-year look back. So
yeah, I was going to say, can you touch base on why you'd want to spend some of that money early or gift it early?
Yeah, so you want to gift it, or maybe not spend it because, well, I mean, I guess you could spend it, but if you were to go into a nursing home and everyone's afraid of having a nursing home and having those that event happen, and then your assets essentially getting depleted. That's the big thing. Nursing home care costs are astronomical. I don't know if it ever changes or if it's going to keep going up the way it is, but that is a huge concern for retirees or people that are getting older in age. So what you want to do, or what you can do, is protect those assets. There's a couple different ways. You can gift those assets and start getting them out of your name. The only problem with that is that there's a 5-year look back. So if anything were to happen in the next 5 years, those gifts that you've made could end up getting clawed back. And that could be pretty significant. If you gift, I don't know about you, but, if I was gifted some money right now, I could probably use it to pay some bills, right?
Inflation.
We each have 2 kids. Kids are expensive. They got sports and everything else. So I'm probably going to use that money for some sort of expense.
Mm-hmm.
Once I use it for some sort of expense, I no longer have it. So in 3 years, if they come to me and say, hey, we need that money back because the 5-year look back, well, what's going to happen then?
Right.
So that gifting is one way to kind of spend down that money, but another way is to set up a trust and kind of protect those assets, which also have the 5-year look back, but it's just another form of kind of protecting those assets.
Yeah. So if you had a crystal ball where you could see 5 years in advance, you could plan this out perfectly.
Right.
But if you don't, then maybe you should speak to someone about planning that out and what the best route would be. And then getting to kind of that next stage, but the unfortunate stage of, not potential death, but inevitable death.
Right. I mean, maybe one day we'll get we'll get to potential death. But,
the way the technology's going, you might be able to.
What is it? What's the saying? There's only 2 things that are guaranteed in life: death and taxes.
Yeah.
So
maybe one day that phrase will change.
Can you imagine?
One guarantee of life: taxes.
Right. Is it bad that we feel out of those 2 things,
death might be the thing that's less uncertain?
Right. That's not
taxes.
Right. Oh
man. But yeah, just being on the same page about what your plan is after you pass away. Just kind of getting back to the whole will situation. What do you want to do with your assets? Another example, I was just having a conversation with someone the other day. They wanted to leave their house, well, not leave their house, but make their primary residence and put it in their daughter's name right now before they pass away.
Hmm.
And in that situation, you're essentially giving them that house at the cost basis of what they bought it at. So what you're eliminating from them is the potential tax benefit of a step up in cost basis. And what that means is when they inherit that house, they get a step up in value. So say you bought it at $100,000 back in 1975 or whenever you bought it, and now it's worth $500,000. If you were to give them that house before you pass, they inherit that cost basis of $100,000. So if they were to sell it, then they've got a potential tax obligation of that tax gain. And if they were to inherit it, they get the step up. So now their cost basis is $500,000 and not $100,000.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a huge potential tax liability, and also another reason of sharing this information with an advisor, or just having a general conversation, because you don't know what could come up. It could be as easy as, I don't want to deal with this later, or I don't want you to have to deal with it after I pass, so I'm just going to give you the house now. That might not be the best scenario for you.
Right. And it's not just, your advisor, it's your CPA, it's your accountant, it's your attorney. Mm-hmm. Meeting frequently with your professionals that you work with, it's important. Making sure everyone's on the same page. Because an advisor might, suggest one thing, an attorney might suggest another thing, an accountant might suggest something else. But having those 3 working together so everyone's on the same page is crucial.
Yeah. Yeah, another thing to think about, getting back to the inheritance side of things is, if you're inheriting a retirement account, like an IRA, if you're a spouse and you inherit that account, you're able to deplete that account over a certain amount of time. There's no time limit on it. It's
so essentially that IRA becomes your IRA.
Yes, yeah. It is in your name. And when you pass that IRA to a child or your beneficiary that's not your spouse, What's been done away with is what's called the stretch IRA. So now that person has to deplete that account within 10 years. So if you inherit a $1 million IRA and you're not the spouse, you now have to deplete that within 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to cause an extreme amount of tax complications for you. And another reason why you should be having these estate conversations or estate planning conversations with your family. What are the potential tax obligations that I'm going to have? Who would have thought that inheriting $1 million would cause you a big
so
problem?
much pain, right? Right. Like, oh man. Yeah. No, I completely agree there. And the other thing, because this whole discussion is about life events that can change your financial picture. And a lot of the times we really stress having, if we're working with a married couple, it's having both spouses in the meetings together. So there's those open lines of communication. Mm-hmm. Because typically there's usually one spouse that will handle the finances. It doesn't matter if it's the husband or wife. Typically there's one spouse that handles it. So what happens if the spouse that handles the finances passes away, right? The other spouse, if they've kind of been left in the dark, often, they don't know who to reach out to, what they even have, where the accounts are. And it can, one, they're dealing with the grief of losing their spouse. And now they have to go through the process of trying to find everything,
right?
Which is the last thing that they want to be doing. So we have, we suggest having those meetings where you bring, both spouses to the meeting, you bring everything together, and we often use a couple different tools. Either one's called the Life Folio Checklist, another one's called the Family Love Letter, and essentially those are documents that you can kind of put everything down, where they're located, bank accounts, your accountant's name, your attorney's name, number, where your will's located. Do you have a safety deposit box? Do you have a safe? So everything's kind of lined up and kind of written in a way that someone can say, okay, this is what we have to do next to kind of make sure the ball doesn't get dropped.
Yeah. Yeah, and if your spouse is the one that's handling the finances and maybe paying the bills, it might be kind of eye-opening what your bills are and how they're getting paid and where that money's coming from. So it might be even having that conversation of, this is the account that we use for paying these expenses. This is an account just strictly for, if it's set up for vacations, or if you want to have this account set up just for passing down to family, whatever your plan is, it's coming up with an agreement of this is what we want. That way, if God forbid something were to happen, you're all on the same page.
Right. Yeah. And believe it or not, I've heard some crazy stories as far as people putting money where you would least expect it.
Under the mattress?
No, under
the floorboards?
that would make even more sense. No, but I had a client that mother was older, from an older generation, and they were going through the house, and they found several $100,000 in government bonds in the freezer.
That was going to be my third guess.
Right.
Was the freezer.
The freezer. It was in a shoebox in the freezer. And it's, who would have thought, not me, but now
I guess I might have. It was my third place to look.
But I will keep in mind, though, if I ever have to, if anyone passes away and I'm cleaning out the house, I'm going to check the freezer.
Yeah, right behind the ice cream.
Right.
The Rocky Road.
Right. Or I'm going to open up the ice cream, make sure it's not full of cash. But, like we had a grandmother that, she would hide money in every little nook and cranny of her purse or wallet or closet. So, those are things that, if they're hiding something or trying to put something away that is different than cash, jewelry or anything like that, only they know where it is. And as they age, they might,
harder and harder to remember where that is.
If they start having dementia or anything like that,
Yeah.
if those things aren't written down, I mean, that could be something significant that's lost within your family that can be avoidable.
For sure. Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you have too much more to add to that, but I feel like we covered a good amount.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm sure there's kind of some segues that we can go, and we might even have some future episodes that can kind of go into a little more detail on some of those topics.
Yeah, and if you were listening and you were fiending for more on a certain topic or a certain area where you think we could expand, feel free to let us know. Whatever platform you're listening to this on or watching this on, just drop a comment and just say, hey, can you expand on this in the next episode? Or even if you want to shoot us an email or have a quick call, we're pretty readily available if you want to plan something. And we can obviously feel free to discuss a little bit further.
Yeah. Appreciate everyone tuning in, and we will talk soon and have some future topics for you in the next few weeks.
Beautiful. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.